Hello, welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast, and we're here today after Derby's, to be honest, pretty entertaining 5-3 defeat to Coventry. I mean, it was the perfect game for the neutral, wasn't it? One team went ahead, another team went ahead, and it's just unfortunate that Derby were the team that threw it away right at the end. I said right at the end, it wasn't even that close to the end, was it? But completely threw the game away, threw away any points, and currently sit inside the bottom three, which is something I'm sure we won't want to keep happening for much longer. So, joining me today to go through Derby's pretty horrible game and seeing how we can improve and develop as a team is Callum Boocock. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. I'm good. My Sunday's been better than my Saturday, put it that way. So no, I'm all good, pal. How about you?
I'm very good, thank you. I'm very good. We've also got Craig Nash. How you doing, Craig?
I'm all right, matey. Thanks for having me on. You good?
I'm very, very good, thank you. You're right. You're right, Craig. Doing well.
I'm all good. I'm all good. Doing what I can, on a Sunday after a loss.
Absolutely. It's been a great weekend for me. Watched Derby lose, played this morning, lost, managed this afternoon, lost. So maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem. You never know. It could just be my fault all along. But to be honest, we have loads to talk about. I think about that Matlock game, how we had to drag out 45 minutes worth of talking points in that. I think we might struggle to keep it within the time today. But let's go right to the very start of the game and let's talk about that lineup, Callum, because all the talk before the game was about how Derby were going to set up. Blackett-Taylor's out injured, out for what, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Derby don't have any wingers. We're now in a position where we maybe need to change something. And John Eustace did that. He played a back five. It looked very, very defensive on paper. I wish it was better defensively in real life. That would have been nice, wouldn't it? But what were your thoughts on Derby's setup?
So say surprising just because of what we've seen in pre-season. Look, I think he's had to revert to type. We were talking about it when the lineup came out, just when we met up before the game, and I think it's just Eustace is looking at it, going, "What have I got to work with?" And at the moment, he's got to work with is a squad of players that are used to a certain formation, a certain style. At the end of the day, we've currently got maybe 9 out of the 11, maybe 8 at a push, who are all worn signings, all signings who he had to put into a system last season to get results. And what we've seen so far is, obviously because of the injuries and the cards we've been dealt, is that we're struggling to really put that set of players into a formation, into a system that he wants to look at progressively moving forward, which is obviously the 4-2-3-1, trying to play through the lines. And it's just not been working so far. And I think what he's looked at is being pragmatic and looking at a formation in a 3-5-2 that they're kind of a bit more solid, a bit more familiar, just to help out this current set of players. And look, we scored 3 goals. Yes, we conceded 5, but so yeah, maybe the being solid defensively didn't go to plan, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, I think this is probably what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've scored 4 goals in 2 games. Should be happy with that. We're doing all right. It's just a shame we've conceded 8. So, maybe that is a bit of an issue. And Craig, Callum mentions there, Eustace is having to deal with what he's got, right? He's having to deal with the players that he's got at his disposal. And I don't think Derby's recruitment has helped him very much, to put it bluntly. I think when you look at the team that we had out, it just didn't look quite right. There were, like we said last week, there were players playing in positions where they maybe shouldn't be playing. There were players playing that maybe shouldn't even be getting anywhere near the team. It's been weird, the recruitment this summer, because we've signed some players that on paper, you look at them and go, yeah, they look a really good sign. And I'm really excited about that. But the amount of players we've signed that are injured or have had no pre-season is insane. You look at the players that came in, like Callum mentioned, Carlton Morris has had no pre-season. David Ozo's had no pre-season. You could see 70 minutes in that David Ozo's legs were starting to give out from underneath him. It's not great, is it? And I mean, I'm looking in the comments as well. We're talking about the Koki Sato, who we'll get onto. I hope that's how you say it. He's a winger on loan at QPR last season. Derby apparently have had a bid accepted. He is also injured and has missed the entirety of pre-season. I mean, Craig, it seems a bit weird, doesn't it, that we keep signing players that are just not fit. Why?
I think that's the market we're having to shop in with the funds we have available. I think if we were looking in players who are fit, raring to go, maybe we wouldn't have been able to bring in as much quality. I think we're looking long. We have to be looking long term. So I think it's a bit of a risky strategy, and we'll be playing catch up a bit. But long term, I don't think it's that concerning. I am a little bit worried about a couple of the defensive additions. You know, we've spoke a lot, haven't we, online about Danny Bart and Dion Sanderson looking way off the pace. And that's with Danny Bart having a full pre-season, by the way. Maybe you can give Sanderson a little bit of slack because he hasn't had a pre-season and he is a bit younger than Bart. But you know, when you're looking at those three, where you're back three yesterday, and we ended last season with Langas, Phillips, and Clark, and we're a lot weaker than we were. That is a bit of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Cal?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree with what Craig said. I think when we're talking about the budget and the kind of the market that we've looking at, I think a lot of talk has been about, like you said, the fitness of those who are coming in. And look, players have to do a medical, don't they? And look, it's not going to curtail or stop a transfer. It's down to the club to say we're happy to still take that player on, even if they fail a medical, or even if they're not obviously fit. Obviously, Adjumang, we've signed for nearly obviously upwards of £5 to £7 million, and we've obviously accepted that he's going to have an operation before obviously starting his pre-season. I think it is a bit odd when you look at, even if you are signing players who aren't in the upper echelons of the Championship and in that current market, I still think it's odd that we are signing players that can't come straight in and make an immediate impact. I think the only one who we've been really linked to is Travis, who's actually playing first team football and actually has had a pre-season. I think that's
He's not
weird.
anymore, Callum.
That's what I mean. and you kind of sat there going like, well, why are we looking at players who aren't fit? I'd rather look at players who can come in and you sign on the Tuesday and actually start on the Saturday.
Well, don't you think it's a bit weird, Craig, when you look at the players Derby is signing? We've had a couple of comments about Eustace signing his mates. Now, I don't see it that way. I think Eustace is signing players that he knows will do a job because we can't attract the players that he wants. That's the way I'm viewing it. You know, there's no way he'd go out and bring in all these different players just on his own, off his own back. I mean, Lewis Travis looks a really good player, right? And hopefully in the coming days, we'll have an episode out and we'll be saying, yeah, great signing, the midfield saved, or something like that. But, you know, I think we've brought these players in because we're struggling in the transfer market. Does it feel that way to you?
I don't know if I agree with that, you know. I think some of it is he's bringing in people who he thinks can do a job for sure. But you know, we've managed to attract David Ozo back to the club. Like, I'm sure there would have been other clubs who were looking at him. We were raving about him last season, and he played
under
games.
Eustace, Craig. Played under Eustace.
Well, of course he did, yeah. But for one
game.
For like an hour. You know, I'm sure there were other clubs who were looking at Carlton Morris with the reputation he's had in the last couple of years. I know what you say. I know what you mean, though. I know what you mean, especially with the likes of Sanderson. A lot of the Birmingham fans were saying like we can keep him for free, weren't they? Basically. So I haven't seen what Eustace sees in him yet, but in Eustace we trust, right? Surely.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. Come on, John. Get us going. Right, let's talk about the game. Let's get on to the game itself. And I thought Derby actually got off to a pretty good start. I thought we were actually not knocking on the door, because we never do that, but we were actually creating a couple of chances, getting forward, forcing a few corners and getting into the right place. And then suddenly Ibu Adams gives away one of his trademark silly fouls about 30 yards from goal. Don't get me wrong, it's a great ball into the box, isn't it? It's a really good ball from the Coventry player into the box, right in the corridor of uncertainty. And it kind of splits between Ibu Adams and Jacob Zetterstrom in goal. And Zetterstrom, I've watched it back. I'd held back from watching back until just before we recorded. You know, he knocks it into the attacker. It's one of them that's it's annoying, it's unfortunate, and 9 times out of 10 that doesn't happen. But he's got to hold it, Callum. And it's just a bit of a dodgy moment, isn't it, for Zetterstrom? It was, don't get me wrong, I think a Derby player should have been there. I think one of the defenders should have been across there as well. Who knows what's actually gone on there? But what did you think about that first goal?
Yeah, I mean, watching it live, it was just kind of, I don't know how it got through to, it almost like it went straight through and kind of bobbled through. I thought it either hit off one of our own defenders or anything like that. Obviously, I was on the other side of the stadium. But I think when you look at, I mean, I'm not a goalkeeper. I am probably the least qualified to talk about a starting position for a goalkeeper. But when you listen to Eric Steele and those who are talking about his starting position, he does look really deep on his line for where the defensive line is on the edge of the box. And the trouble is then is because of the ball, it is such, like you said, a good ball in that corridor of death of trying to get any nick on.
Corridor of death. I've not heard that one.
And
I don't want to go in there.
Yeah, and it's in that, like you said, uncertainty area where do you come for it? Do you not? And if anyone gets any nick on it, then it can go in, and it's really tough for a goalkeeper. But I think a goalkeeper of his stature and his quality should be doing better. But then I do 100% agree with you. I think the defensive line, there should be someone there, but who is commanding that? Who is putting those players in those positions? Because you can see Gardner on the side, always at every single set piece, he's always out. He always swaps with Eustace and kind of is yelling instructions. He's trying to get that players in set, whether that's him, whether it's someone in the back line that needs to do it, or whether it's Zetterstrom needs to do it. For me, they just seemed a bit, we seem to be on the back foot with certain set pieces, and that was really one of them where we didn't look set, and they've put it in, and it's just kind of fizzled in. It's when we're down 1-0, and it really could have been prevented.
I think part of the problem with that is we've mixed up the back four 3 games in a row.
Yeah,
haven't we? And they haven't all played together. We had different back four on Tuesday night at West Brom, and then at Stoke, and then he made the change, didn't he, to a back 3 in the 90th minute. We all know what happened there. So part of it's got to be with that cohesion, hasn't it? With those players playing together as well.
I saw a thing saying that Sanderson on the pitch, Derby had conceded something like, what was it, like 7 goals in 80 minutes or something like that, which cracked me up.
I want to get to my name.
I know, so funny. But yeah, we just didn't set up right, did we? I don't think the Derby's line was great. I don't think Zetterstrom's position was great, and I think then he panicked. He realised he was in the wrong place and he wouldn't hold the ball and just tried to get rid of it, and it just happens to cannon in. I've seen Jim's put in the comments a lot of shouts to Vickers to start. I don't even want to entertain that conversation because I think that's a ridiculous conversation. I mean, sure, everyone can have their opinion. I respect that, but I think you have a number 1 and a number 2 for a reason. If Zetterstrom does that for the next 4 or 5 games, yeah, 100%, I'm on board. I agree, but I think it sets a terrible precedent if your goalkeeper gets dropped after a mistake. I think that's really bad, and we saw that. Do you remember Roos and Hamer? Obviously, very different levels of goalkeeper, but Roos had dropped one in his net, and then Hamer would play, and then Hamer dropped one in his net. I think David Marshall had a similar run with Calaroos. So Calaroos is the problem, actually, fully enough, thinking back. But, we seem to have that constant, like, well, a keeper makes a mistake, another one gets replaced. All that does is get in the players' heads, and that'd get in Vickers' head as well, and it'd have a negative impact. So I don't think that's the right way forward. But let's talk about Derby's equaliser, Craig. Callum Elder have played 131 games of Championship football, never scored a goal, steps up to the free kick. He'd watched Joe Ward in midweek. He thought, you know what? That seems quite easy, actually. I'll have a go myself.
Hold my beverage.
Yeah, hold his beverage and wraps it top corner. I mean, again, like the Ward one, the keeper's way too far forward, I think. But Elder spots it, does a really good job, and whips it right into that top corner. You can see what it meant to him. I mean, did you expect that?
Not at all. But watching it back, I think it's really hard to get a good dangerous cross in the box from that position because it's a little bit too close to the box. It's not far away, not close enough to the touchline. And you probably did think after what Joe Ward did on Tuesday, I may as well have a go because it's going to be hard to get this in the right area. Fair play to him. What a finish. I have to say, I'd written Elder off a little bit at the start of the season after we'd signed Beck, but I thought for about 70 minutes yesterday, he was all right. He's definitely not fit, but I thought for 70 minutes he was okay. I quite like him, I have to say, but I think long term Beck is the answer. But fair play, great finish.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. I mean, it's good if he can get some form as well. Again, it's good to have options in those positions, especially if we change formation every week. You're going to need to fit numerous people in and around different places. And Chris says Arsenal's goal today was a similar idea: whip it in on goal and hope for straight in or a scuffle on the goal line. Yeah, absolutely. And Derby seems to be quite good at that as well at the minute, although not defensively, which I'm sure we'll get on to. But let's talk about the penalty that was given away. Now, this was the very start of poor Dion Sanderson's disaster class, I think, because, I mean, we've seen some bad home debuts, haven't we? I remember Sonny Bradley apologising to the fans a few years ago after playing a lovely ball through to, I think it was Oxford, for them to beat us. We've had a few debuts where people have gone, oh God, that's not gone very well. And Sanderson, I think, had a really, really poor game, Callum, because you look at that penalty, and I mean, I'd seen it with my eyes. I watched it back, roughly 20 minutes ago, and it's worse on the replay. I have no idea what he's doing because he's nowhere near the ball. The players skinned him and sent him, back to the baseball ground pretty much. He's sent him so far that way. And it's just awful. I don't know what he's doing, Cal. I don't know why he's dived in like that. Like, there was no reason to do it. He was going away from goal. Like, what was going through his mind?
Well, I think he's kind of doing the rule number one that you, as a defender, that and at any level, from child to professional, of don't stick your leg out in the penalty area when a player is more than likely just going to either run into your leg or trip him over or whatever. And look, I'm not writing off any player 2 games in at all, but 100%. he did have a poor game, and it was a mistake that, from a new signing, that when Eustace is backing his man, he's brought him in now the 3rd or 4th time to a club he's worked at. He must have trust, but it's not gone probably the way he would have liked to when he woke up on Saturday morning. And look, when you are in the area, all you need to do is just stand them up, or like I said, put a block. It looks like it from the only thing I can think of is that he's thinking he's going to have a shot, and he's trying to almost like do that low block and almost like go to ground. But like you said, the one thing you don't do in the box is go to ground or anticipate. And I think he's just tried to anticipate a shot. And fair play to the striker is just kind of, like you said, sold him a treat, and he's just gone straight over his leg, and it's a penalty, and it's a clear stall. You can't really have a go or have a go at the referee for giving that. It's a blatant penalty.
Oh no, I mean, it wasn't the most stonewall penalty of the game. Don't get me wrong, but it was a pretty stonewall penalty. Craig, we mentioned there Sanderson. He's not had a great start, has he? I think, as either one of you or Callum said earlier, the Birmingham fans were pretty pleased to see him go. On the episode that Cal did, they talked about, he is a little bit erratic. He's not steady. Like Matt Clark, you know what you're going to get, don't you? He sort of gives you a 7 out of 10 every week. I think Sanderson's maybe a little bit less consistent, a little bit more up and down. I mean, what did you make of him, and how can you see his role in this team sort of coming along?
I think part of his bad start, I actually put at Eustace's door. I think bringing him on in the 94th minute last week, changing to a back 3, was a terrible idea when we weren't really being bothered. And then he was at fault for those 2 goals, right? He was a little bit better on Tuesday. We spoke about the goal yesterday. He's got to be a squad player, right? He's got to be a squad player coming in on loan from Birmingham. I'm watching him and Bart yesterday. I can only think that Nelson is higher in the ranking long term in the centre backs than those 2. I can't believe I'm saying that after who we've signed in the summer. But before he got injured, he was he didn't really let us down. And I think he's going to be our first choice backup when one of Clark or Langas are injured, looking at Bart and Sanderson so far, because that's who I would pick at the moment. The only thing for Sanderson that's on his side at the moment is age. He's only 25, isn't he? And he probably needs a little bit of an environment where he's steady and he's in and around the same group a lot. He went to Blackburn on loan, didn't he? Wasn't really featuring at Birmingham a little bit. So he's bounced around a bit, and maybe having a bit of consistency will help him. And he's still relatively young. That's the main thing that's going for him. And he's versatile. But yeah, at the moment, I can't see him being a long-term member of our team.
No, and it's interesting you mentioned Danny Bart there. I think maybe he's come under a little bit of harsh stick. I think.
I agree.
I think defensively he's actually looked pretty decent. He put in a really good block. I remember at one point he does all right he does all right in the air. Don't get me wrong, he's had some wobbles as well, 100%. But I think he's it's a hard one, isn't it? It's a hard one. He's clearly got something in him. I believe in Danny Bart, and I think Danny Bart will come good for Derby. And I think he'll be really good cover when we are playing that back four and Sondra Langus, who hopefully there's a physio rubbing his knee every 5 minutes and making sure he comes back as soon as possible, because he's clearly being missed a lot right now. But yeah, I think Danny Bart will come good. But yeah, I'm not sure. Sanderson's got to win us over. But again, you can't write a player off after one or two or three games, can you? It's difficult one. Let's talk about Derby's equaliser then. Nyambi, what a ball into the box. Who knew he could cross? And a handball that I'm not sure the ref kind of understood, because the ref actually waved it away and then gave it 2 seconds later. So clearly either the fourth official or the Lino's in his ear.
Lino gave it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm being delusional here. I don't know how that wasn't a straight red. Because Matt Clark is at that back post ready to head it into an empty net, and the player jumps up, and I've watched the highlight back, and it looks like it to me. He's jumped up, realised that he's not going to get there, and he's put his arm up and he's hit the ball. He's intentionally struck the ball with his hand inside the box. And Chris has put double jeopardy. Double jeopardy only counts if you're going for the ball to make a tackle.
He did with his arm.
Yeah, he jumped up and parried it away. You know, he's basically a goalkeeper. He did what Zetterstrom should have done for that first goal. You know, he should have got it away. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking rubbish. Maybe I don't know what I'm on about. But to me, it felt like maybe it's an orange card. Maybe it's between the two, but I'm not sure he got away with it. But Callum, he stepped up, didn't he? Carlton Morris, of course, he stepped up. We all knew he was going to be Mr. Penalty this year. Step aside, Blackett Taylor, with your terrible hamstrings and your pre-season form. Carlton Morris steps in, confident. He was never going to miss, was he?
No, I mean, when I saw Ibu holding the ball, I'm like, please say you're just holding the ball, so then we can wait for Morris to go and grab it off him. But yeah, I mean, look, the only thing I could think of, when obviously in real time, it was hard to see because he waved it away. But I just think the referee either did not see it, and it's kind of just the easy thing to do to wave it away, and didn't really anticipate his lino, because you can see the lino on the highlights kind of put his hand to his ear, almost like shouting, going, "It's a penalty! It's a penalty!" Red card. I agree. I think it's just on that borderline. It's that orange card that you kind of go, well, some referees might give it, some might not, But the biggest thing for us is that we needed to slot that away just before half time and get ourselves back into the game. And I think what you want from your striker, from your number 9, is putting himself forward confidently. And I mean, what a penalty, just to kind of slot it in and kind of send him the wrong way. And I don't think we've had it, like we said, there's a lot of people have said we haven't had a number 9 like Carlton Morris for a long time, since Chris Martin. But I think it'll be very, very interesting when Patrick Agimang and Salverson are both fit, what we do. What do we do with the two? Because I think at the moment he is exactly what we need. And he's kind of that next level of quality in this current team that we're currently playing that kind of stands us out. And he's probably the only reason we're kind of in games at the moment. I absolutely love him and his work rate and everything like that. But it was a great penalty, and it was good to see him get on 2-2.
Yeah, Craig, I mean, we've seen since he came in that he's clearly a nuisance, isn't he? He gets about, he knocks players about, but he's got that finishing touch as well. I mean, the Luton fans talked about him like he was Connor Salmon, but he's looked very good since he's come in. You know, he's dangerous. He gets in the right places. And the penalty was really confident. It was really calm, the little stutter. Keeper's already well at the baseball ground as well with Sanderson. And he slots it into the bottom corner. I mean, he's going to be big for us, isn't he? Patrick Agimang, I'm sure, will play a massive role, and I'm sure he will for years to come. But right now, Carlton Morris is doing the business.
I can't believe we got hold of him. I really can't. He's a leader. He does the dark arts really well. He really holds the ball up. He's got an eye for goal. You know, every time there was a corner, and he came back to defend. He's like talking to all the defenders, and he's got a bit of a mouth on him. He was before Hadji Wright took his penalty, he was like shouting at him, shouting
Went
stuff
well.
at him. You can imagine what he was saying, right? Yeah, went well. We've been crying out for a player like him for years, haven't we? And we'll always be in and around games if you can score goals. And Carlton Morris at this level can score goals. And what a player for Patrick Agyemang to learn off. Similar sort of profiles, big, holding up the ball. Agyemang's a bit taller, isn't he? So good player to learn from him how to put his body about. I think offensively, when everyone's fit, it's an exciting time for Derby in that respect.
Yeah, it is. It's
just a very quick one.
Go on.
Do you think? And I love Ibu, but Morris gives real captain vibes, doesn't he?
I think it's good to have leaders. I don't think you have to be captain to be leader, and that's my view. I don't know. I mean, you were captain for our game at Pride Park, Callum, and you didn't speak, so the armband doesn't mean a lot. Yeah. No, I know what you mean though. I mean, he was captain at Luton. Travis, if he comes in, was captain at Blackburn. We're signing a lot of players Sanderson was captain before he was caught drink driving and stripped of it at Birmingham. We've got a lot of players that have experience in captaincy at Derby. We've got a lot of players that on paper, and to be fair, in games are leaders. I think that's really good. That's a really good sign for me. And speaking of really good, Derby went 3-2 up. I mean, a long throw from Callum Elder, flicked on by the Coventry player very generously, straight into the path of Ibu Adams, who I have to admit, I slandered him quite a lot last week for his outside of the foot. He's actually put one vaguely where he meant to, and puts it into that bottom corner. It's actually quite a nice finish. I don't know if he means it whatsoever, but it's a good finish, and he gets off the mark for the season. We look dangerous from set pieces, didn't we, Cal? All game. That's the Derby way at the moment, isn't it? We're set piece FC. I think both teams are singing it at one point, which is quite funny. But again, it's another decent goal, isn't it? And I know we conceded 5. This is the weirdest sentence. I know we conceded 5, which isn't great, but it's good to see us score 3 goals.
No, you are right, and it was good because when we love to utilise the long throw. I mean, some of them are quite comical when Niambi tries. If he kind of misthrows it, just goes to it doesn't even reach the edge of the box. So it's a bit embarrassing. Yeah, but yeah, I think like said this one. You saw Morris kind of when he went out for a throw, and he's kind of doing the ring around of roses sign with his finger, and so all the players know exactly what they need to do. Everyone knows where they need to be, so you can kind of see it's been worked on the training ground. And Ibu kind of found that little pocket of space where he wasn't really picked up. The defenders kind of lost him, and like you said, he's managed to slot it in. Whether he's definitely meant a shot on goal, but I mean, it looked a bit almost like he was stretching or fall. It was almost like he's falling backwards. But like you said, it was really good for him because I think over the last couple of weeks, everyone's kind of been saying that he's not been ineffective, but he's really struggling in that kind of advanced role and getting involved in attacks. So to score a goal has probably done himself confidence, but also it might just mean that he is in and around those teams when we're coming into set pieces and stuff, because he is effective. He gets himself in positions, and he's kind of scored a couple of those goals where they kind of fell out of a situation. He scored obviously the scissor kick on the edge of the box and stuff like that. So last season. So I really like Ibu Adams and what he brings, and it was great to see him get back on the seat. And obviously the crowd love him.
Yeah, and he seems to anticipate the game quite well. He does that with his tackling and his running, his interceptions, but I think that plays a part going forward. He kind of knows where it's going to drop. I mean, where the ball goes after it leaves his leg is a completely different question, but he's usually in the right place, and law of averages, you'll get a fair few, and it's good that he got off the mark, wasn't it? The atmosphere was great, wasn't it, Craig, as well? When that third goal went in, you could see the lift it gave everyone in the stand, because to go 2-1 down is pretty depressing, but to turn it around and go 3-2 up, I think it showed, I don't want to say it, but it showed some decent character from the team, didn't it? Because, Coventry are a good side. They're a quick side. They're a dangerous side. And just for a little bit, we felt a little bit of hope in those stands.
Yeah, massively. I mean, if we can score 3 goals when we've got 2 offensive players on the pitch, really, when you think about it, in Jackson and Morris, I know we're clutching at straws, positive straws here, but if we can score 3 goals with that team at home with all the injuries we've got, hopefully we should be looking up for when people start to get a bit of fitness and get back into the side. On Ebu Adams, I hate saying it, but long term, I don't know if he's going to be in Eustace's team.
Probably.
We've
We've
to
talked
say
about
that,
this.
but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And I think his role might be more of a bench player. And I saw on Tuesday at West Brom, with his running, he came on and he won that free kick. And I think we might see him in that sort of role. And at the moment, I feel like we're trying to bit of a square peg round hole. He's not a number 10, is he? But he's just trying to get him in that team somewhere. I would like to see him and David Ozo, though, playing deep together. I would like to see that, to see what that looks like. But long term, I'm not sure.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I think Ebu, I think his future at Derby will be an interesting one to look at, won't it? But I think we're in a real transitional phase at the minute as a team where you've kind of got these 7-8 players that Eustace has brought in that are obviously, of course, injured. That have come in to join his sort of style of play. Like Bobby Clark doesn't play in the 3-5-2, does he? He's got no place in that. Ryan Brewster probably doesn't either. We've got a lot of players coming in that are going to be part of the new team, but at the minute he's trying to do things with the old team. And I think we're just in a really weird transitional phase, and that's why we don't look quite right. And like you mentioned there, Ebu Adams, possibly in the future he might become, late sub, bring on, he'll see a game out, and do something like that. Whereas, at the minute we're having to play him in that role because we don't have anyone else. And the players aren't back yet. So it's definitely interesting. But Jim has asked, guys, skip over that 7-minute period. Well, sorry, Jim, we're going steamrolling right into it because it only got worse for Derby from here. And, we're quite good at, this this episode's called How Can Users Fix Derby After Coventry Collapse? And this was the collapse because all of a sudden we had that little break, didn't we, where I think there was a medical emergency in the stands. We'd seen apparently everyone was okay, thankfully. I think someone had fallen unconscious, so it's great news that everyone's okay. But I don't know what it was about that break, but Derby just seemed to completely fall apart after it. And the first goal to make it 3-3, Cal, it's a ball into the box, a combination of Danny Bart and Dion Sanderson lose the header. It was almost a free header. It looked like he sort of rose from, the set of massive bodies, and one player rose. And Zetterstrom, I thought, got really unlucky. He gets across, the ball's going right in the top corner. He kind of palms it, and as he palms it, he collides with the post, and it knocks the ball across goal, and they've got a tap in. It's the sort of goal that makes you think, it's not our day, this. It's just not our day. It was so unfortunate, but then at the same time, not one Derby player thought to get back on the line.
No, I think that whole kind of, like I said, 5 minutes with the natural interval of what happened, and kind of, I've put it out on social media. I think that is where we needed to make changes, and that it was the perfect scenario to do it, because then you can get fresh legs on. We looked a little bit leggy a couple of minutes before that, and certain players, Niambe, Ozo, even Adams, Thompson,
Elder was really struggling.
Elder was really struggling, and you kind of go, please make some changes there. And for whatever reason, we didn't do it. And then a minute later, we haven't kind of engaged back into the game following that 5-minute interval, and that sort of goal kind of come about because players aren't switched on. We are slow to reactions, and like you said, me and my brother were talking about whether the Zetterstrom could have done better. I actually think it was kind of, to get anything on it, he kind of did it all right, and it kind of just fell to the player to tap it in. But that scenario for me was just unfortunate, but also preventable, because I just think fresh legs and kind of players who are a little bit more alert and a little bit more switched on to obviously getting the game back underway, I don't think that would have happened. Obviously, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I just think that we just seemed, for that 5 minutes or so, or 7 minutes, as Jim put it, we looked leggy, and then we looked to make changes, obviously, when we go 2 goals down. So I just think that for me that it was just the start of that, like you said, unfortunate 7 minutes of a collapse that resulted in the game just getting away from us.
Well, Craig, it very quickly started to go downhill for Derby, and that ball at the back of the net, I thought, take a point. Thought that Stoke as well. I need to stop thinking that. I think that's clearly the problem, because every time I do, we concede about 2 seconds later. But it drops to the Coventry player on the edge of the area, and not one player closes him down. He's got about 5 minutes, steers the ball into the bottom corner and off the post. Great finish, to be fair. I think that was the point where, as Callum mentioned, Craig, the players were dead on their feet. And, you know, Elder looked like he was running through wet concrete at that point. It's Jackson actually who's too slow to come out. He should come out and close the man down. He doesn't, which I think he was the one who didn't close down at Stoke as well.
He's got form for that, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the players were just shattered. I think the players are really tired, Craig. I mean, it just wasn't a good moment for Derby, that, and well, we know it got worse. But yeah, how did you see it?
I think that's where the lack of pre-season minutes in some of these players came to bite us on the bum. It was the same at Stoke. After 70 minutes, you know, they were just out on their feet. Couldn't get out quick enough to him. And, you know, for 70 minutes, our second string or third string were competing with Coventry and we were in the game. And it was the same last weekend at Stoke too. So it's disappointing that nobody got out to him. He still has to put it in the back of the net, by the way. That's a great finish. But it is disappointing that nobody got out to him. But it's the lack of fitness, it's the lack of pre-season. And I just want to be having a podcast where we're not talking about players being injured, no fitness. We're cobbling together a team.
You might have to go to a different one.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, literally. It's just. I'm so fed up with it's what we're having to talk about so much, and I hope we get to October, November, and it's a completely different scenario. You have to give it to me. It was a great finish, but there were 3 or 4 players there who just couldn't get out quick enough. They were knackered, weren't they?
Yeah, they were really struggling, and like the comments are saying, we just needed to make changes a little bit earlier. I think Eustace maybe didn't want to bring certain players on. Like I can imagine he probably didn't want to bring Fozzie on for Elder because of the pace down that side.
He mentioned it, didn't he, in his post-match? He was like, I'm looking to my bench and going, and some of the players just aren't ready. And I'm like, well, if that's what we've got to work with, and he's not willing to make changes when the players on the pitch are almost like dying, and you go, well, where are we? Like you said, that's where we are, unfortunately.
I think on the changes as well, I think he was going to make them before there was that medical.
Vyman was ready. Yeah,
he was ready. And I think some of the players might have mentally switched off a little bit because they were expecting there to be a few different changes, and you know, there's no excuse, but that might be a reason.
Yeah, I bet he regrets that a little bit now. Jules Smith's put history lesson. We signed Steamac in September, lost 5-1 on his first game. After that, 23 matches unbeaten. It's too early to panic. Calm down. There's no panic in here, Jules. Don't you worry, my friend. There is no panic here, which I got hammered for yesterday. Standard. But let's go on to that. Let's go on to that final goal, the 5th goal. And this is where I think fatigue was really getting to the team, because they hammered a ball over the top. It was literally like 2 passes, wasn't it? Long ball over the top down the right. First time ball across the box and a tap into an empty net at the far post. Elder couldn't get back in time because his legs were now fully encased in concrete. Sanderson, Niambi, you know, way too slow getting back. I'd have expected one of those 2 to get back. I don't think I'd expect Danny Bart, because he is permanently in concrete. I think he's not blessed with pace, is he, poor bloke? But one of the others maybe could have followed their runner. But again, it was just one of those where, Callum, it felt like Derby were just done. We were finished. We had nothing left to give. The players were dead on their feet. And yeah, it just wasn't right, was it? It just felt like we didn't have anything left to give.
No, and I think part of it's fitness, part of it's, like you said, they do have really, really good wide players, Coventry, and pacey wide players. And I think, look, our players with the level of fitness, level of probably physicality where they're at, we're always going to struggle to the latter parts of the game. But I do think that it is quite funny that it's the saying almost where I think just going behind again after getting back into the game twice and getting in front when we went 4-3 down just knocked the stuffing out of us, and then obviously 5-3 was just inevitable because we're trying to get back into the game. But the players were dead on their feet, and it was quite unfortunate. It was quite sad to watch because the players had given the effort and have got back into the game multiple times, and it's a shame to watch them go through that. So as fans, and obviously fans sitting there and watching it, although from the neutral, as you put, it was a great game for
what
us.
Game?
Yeah, yeah. For us as Derby fans, it was hard to watch.
Craig, firstly, I've just having a little check of my notes. So I've got Jackson non-existent in my notes, which I think has been permanent for about a year. But looking at that collapse, I mean, it's 2 games in a row where Derby have been leading fairly late on and have thrown it away pretty much. Do you think that fitness element plays a big part in it?
Good question. I think mainly fitness. Some of it's got to be mentality, right? But last season we saw how mentally switched on we were in like the last 8 or 10 games to drag ourselves out of the mess that we were in. So we've definitely got that about the squad. So if you want me to answer one or the other, I think it's got to be fitness. It has to be, because like Callum said, the players did give everything. They got back into the game.
They did.
We've spoken about having 2 offensive players on the pitch. I mean, the less said about Jackson, maybe the better. But and we scored 3 goals, got back into the game. We had nothing left to give. I'm not really worried about the mentality in the squad. We've spoken about Eustace has signed a lot of leaders. A lot of the players from last season who are still here dragged us out of the problem situation we were in. So I think yesterday's game was just a bit of a freak result. It's one of those freak results that come every few years. About 20 years ago, didn't we lose like 6-1 at Coventry? Those sort of games don't come across very often. So it's a shame, but I expect us to bounce back on Friday and learn from the mistakes and be a little bit more solid in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Maybe controversial. I'd actually rather we lost games like that. I mean, I'd rather we didn't lose games at all, don't get me wrong. But I'd rather we lost games like that than games like that Leeds game last season. There were where we turn up and don't even try because we know the team are better than us and they're just going to play us off the park. So why bother? We might as well sit in and hope for a 0-0. I'd rather we give it a real go. So it was good to see us give it a real go. It's just obviously disappointing in the way that it ended as usual at Derby. But one last thing before we get on to looking ahead to that Bristol City game on Friday. Just want to talk about the players that we've got available and the players that we want to bring in. I think players we want to bring in is probably the most important bit of this, Cal, because when you look at the players that Derby are linked with, obviously we've got Sato, which I'm sure someone will tell me I'm saying wrong at some point, as well as, we've got Lewis Travis, who's supposedly coming in as well. Max Johnston's a player that's been heavily linked for weeks, and Derby are apparently close to matching his asking price. So, we've got a few players that, a right back, a holding mid, a winger. When you look at players we need to sign, Cal, they're surely the 3 positions, or holding midfielder and winger are surely the most important ones for us now.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I mean, we've kind of laughed about it earlier. Where are we going to sign more players who aren't ready to come into this squad? But we need that. Whoever we do sign, for me, does need to come straight into this team. And in terms of the quality, Eustace always says it needs to be better than what we've already got. I don't mind quality, but I need immediate impact also, because what you don't want is that we're signing a player and then we're not seeing them for 6 to 8 weeks because they've got to get its pre-season program up together. And if you've mentioned Sato is injured, then again, appreciate last season he looked really, really good for Queen's Park Rangers, and it's the player of quality that we need. But we need someone who can assist this team now, because, like you said, if we get to, it's all good, well and saying 10 games, and this is where we'll really see the team. And obviously, a month down the line, the team will look completely different. But what you don't want is a month down the line with 10 losses on the bounce. So we do need someone to come in, and a new signing to come in and actually help this team in the immediate.
To be fair, we lost 9 in a row under Warne. So we've got. How
I
many
don't
games
want to
we
go
got
through
left?
that again.
Wait, we drew a game, so we're only one defeat in a row. So we've got loads of games. We've got 8 games left before we're going through that again. That'll be good. Right, let's look ahead to Bristol City. Now, they're a decent side. They did draw with Charlton, which I was quite surprised by. I thought that would be the sort of game that they want to win. But I've said this always, Bristol City have got that soft underbelly. I think, they're one of those teams where if you rough them up a little bit, they don't like it and they don't deal with it very well. Don't get me wrong, they're quite good. And that's the other problem, is that they have some good players. We know a few of them. And they do a good job and win some games. Craig, how do you see it going, mate? And give us a score prediction. Also, sorry, Craig, before you start, if you are watching live or you're listening back, let us know your score prediction in the comments right now. Go for it, Craig. What are you thinking?
Looking at the fixtures we've got coming up, we've got to get 3 points. We have to get 3 points. I think the team that we played on yesterday is going to look quite similar on Friday. I think we might see Brewster on the bench and come on, hopefully, for the last 20 minutes, half an hour. But I can't see us keeping a clean sheet, however. So we might be looking at another 2-1, 3-2. But with having Ipswich the week after, we've got to get 3 points, so we're going to be looking down towards the bottom of the table rather than looking up, right?
Hey, we're currently 0 points off safety. Think about it like that. Callum, what do you reckon, mate?
Well, Hull showed that Sheffield United, I thought, against Bristol City showed how good Bristol were, but then Hull managed to kind of keep them at bay and got a 0-0. And you kind of look at it going, well, let's try and stop goals going in. 8 in 2 games is already too much. So I'd love a clean sheet if we can. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win. And if we are still doing score predictions on this podcast and goal scorers, I'm going to say Morris to get a 3rd in 3.
Oh, I like it. Quick look at the comments. Peter Kerr says it's going to be 2-0 to Derby. Eustace Enthusiast says we're going to lose 3-1. Jim Johnson says Derby are going to win 3-2. In brackets, we hold on this time with Morris to score 2 and Ozo to score. Ben Boocock, well, you just hear that name, he's a clown, but he says Bristol are going to win 3-1, 2 goals after the 80th minute. Probably won't be too surprised with that. Eustace also says that if Sanderson's there, we lose 3-1, which is funny. Chris says it's going to be a 1-0 smash and grab.
Yes.
Insight says we're going to win 2-1. Chris E says it's going to be 1-1. And Amanor says we're going to lose 2-1 as well. So it's a mixed bag at the minute. There's not a lot of confidence going around. I think Derby are going to get a point. I think we're going to get a point. I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. I mean, I last time said 1-1 draw and we lost 5-3. So, what do I know? But I think it's probably going to be a 1-1 draw. I think the Bristol, like you said, they're a decent side, but I think Derby's ability in the penalty area from those balls into the box will yield another goal. So we've scored 1 goal in open play so far this season, by the way. Just keep that in mind.
And I meant Charlton, sorry, not Hull.
Did you?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Can you hear that, Craig? He's just trying to, retcon himself now. It's poor. We'd never do that. We'd never do that. But, we've got to have a bit of belief in ourselves and belief in the team. And I think it's time Derby get a result. I think I wouldn't necessarily say deserved one, but we've worked hard enough to get one, which, would be nice as well. So
let's get Joe Ward at wing back. And get those crosses in the box.
You know what we said about defensive frailty, Craig?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like. Please do subscribe. If you've got any thoughts about the game and the stuff we've talked about, let us know in the comments as well. We always have a read, which is nice. It's good to have the two-way conversation with you guys. And yeah, if you do listen on Spotify, Apple Pods, give us a 5-star rating. If you did enjoy it, it does genuinely actually make a difference. So we'd be really grateful for that as well. So thank you so much for listening. Hopefully we'll be back in the next week or so with a point. That'd be good, wouldn't it? Just anything, to be honest, would be nice. It would make a big difference. But we did like 12 episodes in a row once, and we scored 1 goal. So this is we've been through way worse than this. This is fine. This is normal. This is all right. But yeah, it is goodbye from me.
Yeah, great to see all the interaction in the comments. Unfortunately, I had 8 goals to talk about. Goodbye from me.
Yeah, goodbye from me. Up the Rams.
Up the Rams, as Craig says. Let's do this. Let's get some points, and hopefully we're back next week with more to smile about. Thank you. Goodbye, and we'll see you soon.